24th, 2023. All right, so we'll go over the minutes from our last meeting. Commissioners, any corrections, changes, questions, comments, concerns? Okay, hearing none, then I will make those approved. All right, so tonight on the agenda, we have a continuation from a tabled item from our last meeting for a special use permit 2023-26 neighborhood commercial event space at 315 Pine Street. Justin, take it away, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. The application is for a special use permit to operate a small social gathering event space on the main level of the home for up to 20 to 25 people. The Planning Commission tabled the review at the July 10th meeting to allow the applicant time to submit a parking diagram showing that the required 13 parking spaces would fit on the site. The submitted parking diagram includes at least 14 spaces and maintains drive aisles that are wider than the entrances to the site to allow ample maneuvering area throughout the space. 4 of the proposed spaces would be added south of the existing garage, off of the existing driveway. So the applicant is proposing 4 angled spaces on this north side, opposite of the garage, and 4 spaces south of the garage that are also angled. And then in the garage, there's 4 single-car garage doors, but there's additional space inside for a 5th car. But we would just be counting it for the 14 spaces that are directly accessible. So there's 14 spaces plus a extra storage space for something. And then 2 parallel spots just south of the house where the driveway widens. And then I zoomed into this parking diagram, and so I cut off the bottom. There's another 54 feet of driveway to the street there. And this is a photograph of one of the areas where there would be 4 cars with added parking stalls, which would be just south of the garage, off the existing driving area. And then this is the spot opposed to the garage area where there would be 4 parking spots. And this is an aerial photograph of the site. This isn't a public hearing, and I can stand for any questions, or if you've got any questions for the applicant, he's here and can answer any questions about parking or the use of the site.
Okay, thank you, Justin. This isn't a public hearing. This is a continuation of the previous meeting. Would we allow any public comments other than the applicant?
You can.
Okay. If you'd like to come up, just state your name and your address.
Eric Train, 651 3rd Street West. My backyard adjoins the property. And I was here at the last meeting 2 weeks ago, and I would be very surprised why this meeting would not be public. Certainly it should be. But my understanding is that the plan, and by the way, this is a beautiful property. I love it. Very hopeful that it's restored. My understanding, though, is that the plan is for something of a mixed use where there would be 2 residential residences within the property, which would require parking unless they're not provided with parking. And then this conditional use variance would require additional parking. So there are 14 spaces shown. Now for the 2 residences, would they have any parking? And does that subtract from the total? So is it actually 14 minus X? Like, do they get 2 parking spaces for each residence? Meaning that it's 14 minus 2, so that there's actually only 10 net available parking spaces. Also, would there be employees during these events, and where do they park? So again, I'm very supportive of the efforts to restore the property. I was supportive of the prior variance. The prior variance actually addressed 2 properties, I believe. There was this property, and there was the former funeral home, which is just 2 streets to the west of 61 over here. But it was a prior variance allowing those 2 properties each to be subdivided into multi-dwelling units, which I think is a great idea. And if it allows for the property to be preserved in its beautiful historic appearance, that's great. But this additional variance, because it is an additional variance, it just doesn't add up, and I pointed that out last time, that the parking, unless the people who would reside here are booted out or something, or not provided with parking, there's some details lacking here, and I believe there's inadequate parking. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Justin, could you speak to the parking situation in terms of how many are allotted for the residents of the facility versus the event space?
Sure. The zoning ordinance has requirements for parking based on use. It requires 2 spaces per residential dwelling, and it requires 1 space per vacation rental room. So that would be 6 parking spaces. And conference facilities and meeting rooms require 1 space per 4 persons of capacity, for a total of 12 point something, which would round up to 13 spaces. Those are parking standards that are required across the board for any of those uses in the city, and that's what's been followed for every commercial use and other residential uses of those types. And so we just looked at what the use was and went through the chart, and that's what's required.
Thanks, Justin, for the clarification. Commissioners, before we bring up the applicant, do we have any questions or comments? Or would like to just bring Pavel up to address us? Okay. Pavel, would you like to come up and just state your name and your address, please?
Pavel Zakharov, I'm the owner of 315 Pine.
So the question was asked, if I'm straight, about the employee parking for the event space.
Okay, well, the event space would be run by the occupants of the 3rd level, which is the owners of the property. It would be hosting the events or workshops, what have you,
Okay.
at the main level. So there's no additional employee situation that is anticipated at this point.
So if I'm someone that's renting out the space and I want to bring in a catering group, am I allowed to do so? And if I am, where would those employees park?
As far as the catering employees, well, I would imagine they would bring in the food and everything prior to the event, and then pick it up after the event is over, thereby stacking the personnel on hand. Also, we could shuttle people if need be, but the 14 spaces is the minimum. There's a lot more room to park at the property if need be, which is not anticipated. Also, catering for 10 to 20 people is not going to require 10 employees. So I don't anticipate that being an issue.
Okay. Commissioners, questions, Commissioner McGrath?
Thank you. I think I lost track somewhere with there's 4 spaces in the garage. Is that correct?
Correct. There are 4 single garage doors. One of the garages is much larger, so you could fit 3 cars in it, but for the purposes of this meeting, we're only counting 4 spaces in the garage.
And is it true then that there are 12 additional spaces? Or did that count the garage spaces?
That counts the garage spaces for a total of 14 shown right now.
Okay, so there's 4 in that upper lot, 4 on the side lot, 2 on the widened part
Correct.
of the driveway,
Yep,
and then the additional garage spaces.
correct. So 4 existing garage spaces that could be expanded to 5 if need be. Easily, there's space there.
Okay,
To fit 3 cars very comfortably in the larger garage. And then 4 additional spaces in the courtyard, 4 additional spaces on the south side of the garage, and then 2 parallel spaces in the wide driveway, where you can see the dumpster is that big square in the middle. This guy here right now is a dumpster sitting there. So actually, slightly to the left of that would be the spaces, because that's still driveway there.
thank you.
And you can see the fence line kind of right there. So the spaces, the 2 stacked spaces, parallel spaces are planned to be right there. So that leaves all of this driveway still wide open. And you could, in theory, stack way more spaces the long way, but as we were only required 13, we showed 14 spaces.
All right, thank you, Commissioner McGrath. Commissioners, any other questions for the applicant? Commissioner Tyken?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. A couple questions actually for the city. Do we require concrete or tar for parking lots
Yeah, it's got to be a hard surface. It would have to be concrete, asphalt, or pavers.
or pavers? And you're planning on doing that?
Yes, the existing is all pavers, and expanding this portion here for 3 more spaces, because there is an actual paved space south of the garage right now. It was shown in one of the pictures. And then the 3 cars were parked on the grass next to it. That's where we plan on expanding that area to accommodate 3 extra spaces. So everything that's shown right now, barring those 3 cars, is on paved surface already.
And those 3 cars would be paved with pavers or
Yeah,
something?
that would be, just try to match
And
the
is that
pavers.
something that's required by zoning, or is that something that we need to include in the packet?
No, we don't have to include anything, it would have to be included.
Okay. Is there a standard parking pad size that we go by?
Yeah,
How big is that?
it fits into his plan, that he was provided that one. He was directed for the plan. It varies depending on the type of size, spacing, like the parallel ones are 16 by 8, and
The 60 degrees ones are 10 foot by 18. So the 60-degree spaces, which the ones in the courtyard and the ones south of the garage, are required to be 10 foot by 18 foot.
Okay.
And that's what those are determined off of. And that the dimensions there show that there's ample room for that, and the actual spaces there. And then the parallel ones are required to have 16 by 8 width, which are stacked there as well.
I don't know how you'd parallel in that top one if there's a car below it. And then, I know in the past when we looked at other businesses that are adjacent to residential, we required some sort of screening for lights at night. Do we have that requirement here?
there's requirements for lighting in the zoning ordinance.
No, I'm talking about car lights, like when we looked at the
Oh,
KFC with the
Yeah.
drive-through, we made them put a fence up so they didn't shine lights into the neighbors. Are you the one to the east, or are you in the north?
North,
I am
East.
They're north, okay.
So he's behind the garage and behind the
Actually,
fence.
go to the one where that's
Yeah, that one.
the 3 cars that are parked on the grass.
He goes behind the garage here?
Yep, he's
Okay.
behind the garage. We don't actually, I can't even see his house unless I'm on the
That's
third
Eric,
floor.
okay. I just wondered where you
Property,
lived.
correct?
Can you pull up the one with the 3 cars on the grass?
My,
Yeah, there's
my
a fence.
property is to the north of the garage.
Yeah, there's a bunch of trees there. Okay. I was just worried about if cars are parking there at night, that they would illuminate the neighbors. I guess my only comment is, I was kind of disappointed to see this hand-drawn thing. I don't think most businesses would submit something like this. I don't know if we have requirements for that, but that was kind of disappointing to see, but I'll leave it at there. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Tyken. Commissioners, any other comments, thoughts? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to either approve or deny the special use permit. Commissioner Peters.
I guess, when we sent this back after the last meeting, it was to verify that there were 13 required spaces. And, if just looking at the facts of this and everything, it does have the spaces. When I thought about this as a business, I thought about, in the special use permit, I thought about last summer or the summer before when we talked about the bike rental place. And granted, that one isn't at night, but I see it kind of similar because, people might rent their bikes for an hour or 3 hours, and the amount of traffic going through in that area, and it's also right in a residential area, and it seems like that's working. We haven't, as far as I know, there haven't been complaints to the city about that, and they're also kind of, parking. Parking was one of the issues we talked about with that. So I guess, for me, I feel like the requirements of what we asked them to do were met. There's still unknowns. I think when we hear event space and, we think events, but looking again at how long people will be there, there's a minimal requirement of 1 hour. I just can't imagine that there would be like 5 or 10 events during the day. I'm guessing it will be more like 2, 3 on a really busy day. So I guess to me, comparing it to the rental, the bike rental in terms of special use permit and the amount of traffic, it feels like it's the same. That's fitting okay into a residential area. They've met the requirements. So I guess I'll make a motion to approve this or to send it to the city council with the recommendations by staff.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Peters. We have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, second. Any further discussion? All right. I will say that I also struggled with this, but when I thought about what is our purview as a commission, the request was made, give us a parking diagram, show us how it's going to work. I do agree I would have liked to have something that was a little more not hand-drawn, a little cleaner, just to see. But what we asked to be done was done. And our purview is not, do we think this is, the right fit? That's not what we were asked. We were talking about the special use permit in terms of what do we think that an event space should look like. That's obviously your business, and we're not the business people. So I guess I would agree, and I will take a vote. All those in favor of passing the special use permit 2023-26, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Okay. All right, the motion would pass. Thank you, Paulo.
Thank you. So that's it?
And this will be going to the city council at their next meeting, which is August 7th, for final determination.
Sounds good. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Justin, other business.
I don't have anything coming up for the planning commission to bring to your attention. But from the last city council meeting on July 17th, they approved the Shepherd of the Valley minor subdivision and the 20-acre preliminary final plat for the Reese addition, 20 acres.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Excellent, thanks, Justin. Commissioners, anything else? Okay, if hearing nothing else, I'll take a motion to adjourn. All right, Commissioner Tyken, you get a second? Second, Commissioner LeBrun. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Have a good night, everyone.